Thank you for tuning into the Three Circles Living podcast, where we talk about how you can improve your life. And it doesn't matter if you want to accelerate your professional career, you want to have better relationships, you want to be healthier, you want to find your purpose. This is a podcast for you. And if you ever have any questions or feedback for us, just leave them in the comment section. We appreciate it and we will for sure get back to you. Today, we're going to talk about pretty much like what we talked about the last few episodes about home-based business and opportunities. But the title is really the skills that nobody is born with and what successful people actually learn. Because I feel like, and I thought that too, most people think that, successful entrepreneurs and people that do something on their own, they're naturally gifted. But that's not the truth. They are actually learning specific skills. And the good news is that you can do that too. You don't have to know anything when you get started. You can learn all of the things. And the biggest thing though, I feel like why people quit in the home-based business or when they're looking at opportunities is because they haven't developed the skills yet. So they haven't gotten there yet and they think they will never be able to do it or they're just not successful when it's all about just give yourself a little bit more time. But I actually want to talk about the myth busting more around that because let me ask you this. I'm just going to throw it out there. Successful people are naturally confident. What would you say to that statement?
Definitely not. Well, if my experience is relevant, then the answer is definitely not. Um, but I would believe that when people see people that are successful and they appear to be confident, then they're thinking, well, that confidence is why they became successful. When in fact, they're probably more confident now because they're successful. They actually achieved something meaningful to them, and it gives them more confidence that they can do other things, but also they carry themselves a little bit differently, right? Their head might be a little higher and their chest is a little higher and the shoulders are back, right? Maybe. But that's, confidence is by definition, not that many people have confidence just from a
Mhm.
statistical standpoint. And then having confidence in one part of your life does not automatically transfer to confidence in another part of your life. So just because someone appears confident in a certain area doesn't make them a confident person. But that, I mean, that's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous that it's a factor in success. It's not at all.
No, when you started, were you confident?
I'm still not confident, and I'm 65 now. So, I'm not really thinking that's going to happen. Right? However, it's not a function of whether or not I'm confident.
Yeah.
It's really about having some understanding that it really isn't even about that. It's about a willingness to persist, right? That's what success takes. And you opened this with the first words that you use relative to the application was home business. It's
Mhm.
anything that's self-initiated, anything, right? If you look at the
Yes.
statistics across any self-initiated industry, whether it's financial services or it's insurance or it's real estate or it's anything in that realm, they're not all that different. The
Mhm.
majority of the people who purport to get started, and I say purport because getting the training and having a certificate or having a license or having an opportunity to do is not starting. That's not starting until you're actually engaged in the process of pursuing clients and letting people know what you're doing. You're not actually doing anything. you're
Mhm.
you're in the information gathering thing. The thing that as you know, Chris, I've had the opportunity over the years to have trained many, many, many people who have been successful by
Mhm.
other people's definitions. That's another thing to recognize. Just because you consider someone successful doesn't necessarily mean they do. And
Mm-hmm.
so, but by most people's definition, they're successful, meaning they've achieved some level of accomplishment in their thing. They, the only thing that is a commonality among all of them is the will to persist in the work until they get there. That's the only commonality. It has nothing to do with their background, their education, their race, their gender, what school they went to, because self-initiated activities, none of that matters. None of it makes any difference because it's human to human, or it's figuring something out, and
Mm-hmm.
it's really will. It's the tenacity and the will to keep going through the learning curve, keep going through the difficulties, keep going when people are telling you you're stupid, or that they would never do that, or that they're not interested in working with you, or whatever people say. That's really the commonality, right? It's not,
Mm-hmm.
there's no magic trick, and there's not some, oh, you look like this, right? Which is another common thing, right? You look at before someone becomes self-aware and begins to self-develop, they always look at someone else and consider, geez, if I was like them, then I could do
Mm-hmm.
this, right? No, that's not relevant. You're you. And just because someone, the easiest example is an introvert extrovert, right? An introvert looks at an extrovert and goes, boy, if I could talk like that person and just engage people, I would be successful. No, that has nothing to do with it, right? That person may not have the other set of skills that you have, or your tendencies that are just as effective in relationships. So
Yeah.
it's just one of those things where, until we get a little development and a little self-awareness and a little basic understanding, and don't operate based on these myths that you talked about, right? They become kind of a banner of why I can't, right? Which means it's a
Mm-hmm.
banner of why I don't have to take the responsibility to do what's necessary. That's
Yeah.
really what it is.
To take the action
Yeah, that's not
that,
popular, of course. Me saying that is not going to be popular, but I don't say popular stuff. I just say stuff that I've seen and proven to be true in my lifetime. That's it.
yeah. And that's, and to your point too, it's in any situation. It doesn't have to be a home-based business. It can be in when you work your way up the corporate ladder and you're like, I will never be a VP of whatever, right? Because I'm not the person. And I can tell you, I thought like that, where I'm like, I don't dress like a business person. I have my comfy shirts and my jeans, and that's what I do. That's how you see me. I'm not gonna wear a suit. I'm not gonna do the dress or whatever, but I don't have to. Like it doesn't matter to your point of when you compare yourself and think like you're not that person. Um, but also the other side, that most people, if you look at anyone that you, with your definition of success, look at those people, and you really look at them and read about them and read and look at the interviews they give. They're still scared. Like the people that make millions and billions of dollars, when they start something new, they're still scared. They're not confident yet. But they do it, to your point. That it's just the will and taking the action of doing it. And
Yeah,
that's it.
yeah. It's the just, and we unpacked a lot of reasons in the last few episodes why people don't. The only thing that matters is that you just
Hmm.
start taking the steps, and your journey, nobody else's journey is going to indicate yours. It's just not, because nobody else is you. Nobody else
Can't.
coming into it with all your good stuff and all the stuff you don't like, and then all your experiences. That's what you bring. And it's about developing from there. And the only way to develop into the success is to begin doing the thing and find your way and figure it out. That's what successful
Yeah.
people do. They figure it out.
Yes, 100%. I would have a World Cup example because just the World Cup is right on right now, and I'm a soccer fan. I'm German. That's just what we do. But a really successful German player that won everything that you can think of, it nationally, internationally, everything. And when he started out, trainers didn't look at him because he was not the typical person. He didn't have great skills. He didn't have technical skills, but he still did stuff because he embraced his uniqueness and he was loved because he was him. And I think that's the part that you should take with you. You don't have to be like anybody else.
We have a current example that just happened here in the United States when the New York Knicks won the NBA championship. Their star, Jalen Brunson, nobody believed in that guy all the way up, right? I mean, college coaches were like, we don't know if he's big enough or fast enough or good enough to
Mm-hmm.
be a good college player. And then he became a national champion in college. And then they didn't think, well, he probably won't translate. He probably won't be a success in the pros. But then he started becoming really successful in the pros, and the team that he was with, who he was beginning to shine with, wasn't willing to pay him because they didn't believe he could become what he became. And he just won a championship. Nobody believed that they could win. And he was the primary. Their whole team played very well together, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But that guy was the difference maker because he didn't care what anybody else said. He just did the work and just worked and worked and worked and worked and became he is, his own unique player that nobody can figure out how to deal with. I mean, but it's a classic example. And it's like that in every industry. I mean, again, I've seen people that before I understood, before I had a little wisdom under my belt, I'm like, how did that person become successful? Because that's how I would look at them, because they didn't fit any classic mold. And then after a while, I'm like, there is no classic mold. There's no such thing
Yeah.
as a classic mold. There is when it comes to what's marketed out there. Right? If you look at what's marketed, it is a very classic thing. But that is not the reality. That's not real world stuff. That's marketing. Don't confuse marketing with reality, because they're not.
Always. They are not. For sure. What would you say that great communicators are born that way?
I mean, again, that would fall under the how ridiculous can you be? That is a highly honed skill. Now, there are people born with a tendency towards interaction, with favor or the right kind of empathic vibration with people, right? We all have some of the right things that we can build on. But great communicators become great communicators through an enormous amount of practice and work. Like that's what it takes. Nobody just falls out of their chair and they're suddenly a great communicator. That is while it's an incredibly needed skill, it is something that you have to highly hone. You can't, even if you're born with a tendency to be communicating, like again,
Mm-hmm.
like an extrovert would naturally be oriented
Mm-hmm.
towards communicating. That doesn't make them a good communicator. It just
Yeah.
means it's someone who talks a lot. That's all. That's not communicating. That's just running your mouth.
Yeah.
Becoming a great communicator it's only a fraction of that is what you're saying, right? That's only a fraction of it. It's about all the other stuff too. It's about how well do you listen? Or do you
Mm-hmm.
understand empathy and how to utilize that in a conversation? And what kind of questions will you ask? Can you stay focused on the person in front of you as opposed to want to get out what's in your mind to get out? Or can you read subtle body language or facial tics or expressions or micro expressions? Or there's so much to it that the people that people consider great communicators probably are, but that was something that they spent thousands and thousands of hours mastering, because they didn't get taught how to do that. Nobody gets taught how to do that. I mean, as a
Yeah.
general rule, right? There's always outliers that are honed in a certain direction from an early age. That's not the normal thing. Normally, none of us are taught how to be a terrific communicator. It's not in any curriculums as a base. It's not.
Yeah.
We have to tackle that on our own.
Yes, and to your point, it's not just about being able to speak well, it's about every part of the communication. And listening is a big part, and also that relationship building skill. It's not just getting everything out what's on your mind, but really being in the context, being connecting dots, and being there in the moment and understanding the situation.
Yeah, well, Christopher, communicating with other people was really difficult for me for a long time. Right? And it
Mm,
wasn't learning how to speak that made me an effective communicator. It was honing my natural tendency to listen because that
mm,
was my natural tendency. And so I learned how to hone that. And then I gradually really learned how to ask good questions and then continued to listen. And then I continued to multiply those skills. But everything was built for me. I mean, I was always and still am the kind of guy where if I meet you for the first time and we happen to get into a conversation, you'll talk for 20 minutes and I'll talk for two.
yeah.
And you'll walk away going, wow, that guy is a great communicator. I've had people tell someone who had brought me along to a meeting, man, that guy can really communicate. And I said almost nothing because it wasn't great communication is very little about what you're saying. It's
Yeah.
not the whole thing. And again, when someone is going to perceive you as a great communicator, that's purely because you make them walk away feeling good about having been in a conversation with you, because that's what people remember. They
Hmm.
remember what imprints on someone is how they feel in your presence, not anything that you might do to impress them. And in fact, the more you try to impress someone, the less you will.
Yeah.
That's just a fact.
100%. Now, when I, with my definition of success, when I looked at successful people, I always was like, they they don't get rejection. They don't have to handle rejection. They never hear the word no. Like, how do they get yeses all the time and make all these sales and do all the things? But really, successful people hear the word no too.
They hear it more,
Hmm.
right? The more successful someone is, the more no they've heard, because that's the path, right? The path that you have to recognize that everything involves human nature. And human nature says, I don't care what you're doing, and I don't care how good it is, most people are not going to be open to it at this moment. That's just a fact. And a successful person will understand that. And they might not understand it right away. They'll just have to
Yeah.
deal with it. And through will and tenacity, all business is just mathematics. It's all it is. It's everything is math. And yeah, if you operate with heart and good character, then you will have a little better conversion in
Hmm.
time than the person who's just churning people all the time in work and not paying any attention to the relationship part, because the math is the task part. And then you have the relationship part, and you have to have both to have anything sustainable and to build a credible kind of platform of being with other people, right? You can't be known as someone who's just coming to you to sell something. And if you don't say no, then they're on to the next person and they don't care anything about you, kind of thing. But purely just from a numbers perspective, the most successful people have been rejected the most. And it's true in everything, right? It's true in Hollywood.
Hmm.
It's true in
Oh
music.
yeah.
It's true in everything. You have to, especially the farther up you're trying to go, right? The more rejection you have to get. That's just the path. And the interesting thing is so many people are terrified of rejection, right? They're terrified of it. I mean, I was
Hmm.
terrified of it. When in fact, we've been rejected since we were kids. We've been rejected in everything all the time. It's just part of it, right? And it just makes you better, right? It makes you better to have to continue to to do the circuit, right? I mean, I got to keep talking to people who then express
Hmm.
interest or tell me that they're not interested, and then I find out who really is, and then I have people that then at the last minute don't do anything, and then I have some that do, and successful people just play that math, and sustainably successful people play it with a good heart. Again, there's always outliers. We're not talking about outliers in the bell curve. We're talking about general population because that's who we are. And that's the path to success. Rejection is the path. It's not something you can avoid. So that's my take.
Yeah. It's not personal. And I guess the people that are successful or are there where you want to go, they just don't let it define them when they get a no or when they get rejection.
Yeah, it's like
So,
it's just a refusal that someone doesn't want what you have right now, or they don't want it from you right now. That's all it means. It's
yeah,
like it's
it's
like
like,
offering coffee if you're in service.
yes,
Offering coffee.
or a dessert or whatever else, and people say no, like that that's not rejection. It's just not what they want at that point of time.
Yes.
So, very, very straightforward. What would you say? I have to laugh at this one. That successful people are motivated all the time. Are you motivated all the time?
How do you describe motivated? What does that mean? You mean they just feel like doing it?
Yeah, they just feel like doing it. They
Yeah.
get up and they're like, yep, I'm doing it.
Yeah, I think that's probably describing like seven people in the whole world. Right? I mean, all humans deal with the constant up and down of the way they feel. And
Yeah.
more often than not, all you have to do is think about how often do people, they wake up in the morning and they really want to go to work that day. I would bet you more often than not, they don't. They're not
Hmm.
motivated to go to work that day, even if they like their job, because we're all dealing with the whole basket of what it feels like to be a human. It's not about your motivation. Right now, we can go down the rabbit hole of tying it to something deeper and your why
Hmm.
and the things that will make it not optional for you to do, which is a hack, right? That's a hack
Yeah.
for it. Um, you like reversing the motivation and say, well, if I don't do it, I'm certainly not motivated for what I'm not gonna get, or more of the same, or whatever. But the bottom line is you do what is necessary to accomplish your goal, whether you feel like it or not. Whether you feel like it is not relevant in the moment.
Hmm.
It is, and that's what successful people do. They don't allow how they feel about it in the moment to drive them, right? Emotions are a horrible master. They're good servants, but they're not great masters. And you can't allow emotions to dictate whether you do what you need to do today or not. You have to do what you need to do, irrespective of how you feel. And you'll feel better, right? You can act your way into a different way of feeling, but you can't sit around and feel your way into a different way of acting. That doesn't happen. It doesn't work. Matter of fact, if you don't do the thing you know you're supposed to do, because you don't feel like it, right? And it's just not feeling it today, or not only will that not change today, you're going to feel worse because you're going to know that you didn't do it. So now you got
Hmm.
guilt, and now you got shame, and it becomes a spiral in the wrong direction
Yeah.
each time you give into it. Whereas correspondingly, if you just push through, regardless of how you feel, and you make that phone call, or you do that rep, or you know, write that 2 pages, or whatever it is that you're doing, and you just do it anyway, and what, I'm not my best today. So what? Who's their best every day? Nobody is their best every day. It's not about being your best every day. It's about showing up every day. And the
Hmm.
cool thing about that is the more you continue to persist and do your fundamentals, because it's always just doing that, eventually your worst day is way better than your beginning day's best day, because you
Mm,
have gone to a whole new level in your growth and your skill and your strength or whatever that is. That's why I always talk about physical exercise as being one of the greatest things to build your character on the planet. And it's a great example of this. If you
mhm.
continue to physically do certain exercises, whether you feel like it or not, they'll get to a point where your worst day of doing that thing is 10 times beyond where you started on your best day, right? And it's the same in everything else. It's transferable.
Yeah, 100%. It's like that. It's the repetition and the consistency of just doing it. And then you automatically get better, even if you think you're not. Like,
Yeah.
it's crazy. You can see it. You will see it 100%. So I know,
When I first started in business, especially
mhm,
my own business, but even when I was in commercial lending, I had to go out when I was, in my mid-20s. I didn't have any skills. I didn't have any credibility. I had nothing. And I had to call on people who were successful in their field and try to earn their trust. I didn't even know what to say, but I just did it. I just did it. And after a while, I started to build relationships. And then after building the relationships, and they started to throw me a bone. Well, why don't you try this, right? You keep showing up. That's what they would say.
yeah.
You keep showing up. So here, what can you do with this? And then I would work diligently on something. And maybe it worked and maybe it didn't, but I would, right? And it works that way with everything. You can't get away from that period of time where it's an incredible struggle just to do the basics. That's just part, that's that's the price. You have to pay the price.
With anything, like
Yes.
whatever you do, this is it. So hopefully with this, we gave you a better understanding of like this is all, like you said earlier, it's all marketing. In marketing always, in advertising, everything looks always great. And this is what you have to do. And if you follow this system, this is what you're gonna get.
Oh,
But believe us, this is not how it is. Everybody struggles with these things, especially successful people. As you said, Todd, like the more successful you are, the more you struggle with these things actually on a basis. And the common denominator is just that they just continue to do it anyways.
yes. Yeah, that is the common denominator. It's will and tenacity and persistence. It's just what it is.
Right. Again, thank you all for listening. We really appreciate it. Again, if you have any questions or want us to dive into any other topics, just let us know. But with that, looking forward to seeing you next time.
See you next time, everyone.
Bye.